Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, we got some pretty solid stuff today, mainly NFL. And one story that I'm going to probably focus most of my time on and open the show with, that is Jordan Love holding out before a new deal takes place. Now, normally I would freak out at this news, but I'm optimistic because, well, it seems that Brian Gutekunst and the Packers are just as eager to get the deal done as he is. So, it's not like it's not like the Aaron Rodgers situation where there was a standoff. And as a matter of fact, Rodgers wasn't even looking for a contract. He was just looking to leave. So, it is a positive that both sides seem to be working out a deal. But listen, my opinion hasn't really changed on Jordan Love. He should get paid, I think. Just not big time money, you know? I would give him a little bit more than the average rookie deal, to be honest with you. And I know Jordan Love is better than most rookies right now, but the fact is, as good as he looked at the end of last year, we have one full season on him, and half of that season wasn't even good. The second half of the season was great, but, you can't pay a guy good money after just 8 good games. You know, so, I mean, yeah, I think they should pay him. Because he's a young guy, and, you know, he's a young guy who seems very promising. So he should get paid, but, paying him any more than slightly more than a rookie deal would be possibly a waste. Because, you know, it's gonna... Listen, Carson Wentz, he had a great season. The Eagles paid him, and they paid the price for it too. And I'm not saying Jordan Love is Carson Wentz, but we got to be cautious and be ready if that is to happen. All right, we're going to move on. The Cowboys' chief operating officer, Stephen Jones, was on a podcast, and he said that an 18-game NFL season is most likely inevitable in the next few years. Now, I don't see a problem with it personally. I think when you consider all the factors, the players, they're very adaptable. They'll adjust to the one extra game, right? And the teams will monitor the players' health and adjust accordingly to the schedule. It's no different than what they already do. Only difference is one extra game, and you may worry about the health of players with one extra game, but the league, it's getting safer. Practice time is not as much as it used to be. So that's, less practice, it's less hitting. And the medical staff is more advanced than it's ever been. And it's getting better and better. So, the 49ers made it all the way to the Super Bowl last year. And they had, I think, one starter out heading into the game, and then they lost another guy who didn't even get hurt on the field. He got hurt without contact running onto the field. And the NFL, it's not a coincidence that it's increased its games throughout its, history. It was 12 games, 14 games, 16 games, 17, now possibly in the coming years, 18. I'm sure the players will take the extra money just to adjust a little bit. The whole reason that the seasons are getting longer is because of the advanced, I think, medical staff. The better they get at protecting the players, the longer they can play for, more money they make. I don't see any problem with it. Those who criticize it, I think they're overreacting a little bit. Take a deep breath there. All right, so John Harbaugh, great coach, said that the Ravens' vision for Lamar Jackson is that he will become known as possibly the greatest quarterback ever. He said this in response to a question about Lamar's critics. And listen, I get it. He hasn't performed well in the postseason. But there's lots of great quarterbacks that haven't performed well in the postseason. Peyton Manning struggled for a while in the postseason. There were critics about him for a while, and no one remembers that because now Peyton Manning is remembered as a top 5, top 3 quarterback to ever play. And it's not just him. John Elway, he got beat up his first few times in the playoffs. He lost more Super Bowls than he won, John Elway. He's probably top 7, top 5 as well. Brett Favre, top 10, he struggled in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers struggles in the playoffs. Drew Brees won Super Bowl, he struggled in the playoffs. All these great quarterbacks, and everyone I listed just now, Peyton Manning, John Elway, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, I would put all those guys in my top 10 quarterbacks ever. Aaron Rodgers may be a little... Not sure if I said this on the podcast or just in a conversation, but I think Aaron Rodgers can be ranked as high as number 8, but as low as number 12 on an all-time quarterback list. Right, so I would put him around the 10 range, but you can convince me to put him as high as 8 and as low as 12. But yeah, a lot of great quarterbacks struggle in the postseason. There's only 2 quarterbacks, I think, ever that haven't had that kind of struggle. Joe Montana went 4-0 in Super Bowls, and Tom Brady won 7 out of 10. But even Tom Brady, he lost to Eli Manning twice and Nick Foles. He lost to quarterbacks who were far inferior to him on 3 occasions. Patrick Mahomes, he's had a great career so far. He got destroyed in that one Super Bowl. And that was, as a matter of fact, that was the one Super Bowl where his O-line wasn't fully healthy. So Lamar, I think he's a solid quarterback. Greatest ever is maybe a bit of a stretch, but he is the best dual-threat quarterback to ever play. He's a special quarterback. He wins 75% of his games. I think, based on what we've seen from him so far, he'll figure out the playoff thing, and he'll become one of the best to ever do it. That's my take on Lamar Jackson. So in a Cowboys fan voting poll, Dak Prescott was voted the most overrated Cowboy by fans. And listen, I think it's very possible, and I think most people know this, that you can be overrated and good at the same time. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. I'd put him in the top 12 range. Not top 10, though. He's a good quarterback, but he's getting paid $60 million a year. So he is obviously just a little bit overrated in that sense. He's not top 5. He's not top 10 among quarterbacks in the league. I think right now, I think Mahomes is better, Allen's better, Lamar, C.J. Stroud, Herbert. I think Goff's better than him. I think Jalen Hurts is better. I think Rodgers, when healthy, is better right now. So, yeah, Prescott, he is a little bit overrated, but he's still a good quarterback in my opinion. I think the problem with the Cowboys is, for whatever reason, they think a guy who is 12th in the league at quarterback is going to carry them to a Super Bowl, and they've gotten really dependent on him and CeeDee Lamb. They overpaid for Ezekiel Elliott. They just lost Tony Pollard. So now their offense revolves completely around the 12th best quarterback in the league and a top 5 receiver, which there's worse positions you can be in, but like still not ideal. You know, and Mike McCarthy, I think he's a talented coach, but he's not great. So, yeah, Prescott, he is overrated, but he's still a solid player. All right, so this past weekend, LeBron dropped 25 points to lead Team USA from down 16 to avoid a major upset against South Sudan. And, I mean, this is just nothing new. It's what LeBron has done for the last 20 years. But what I really wanted to talk about was the fact that Team USA, who I and pretty much everyone thought would be cruising through these Olympic Games, seemed to really struggle. And no disrespect to South Sudan, but like when you compare the rosters, Team USA should have ran right through them. It shouldn't have been a close game at all. You know, it shouldn't have had to come down to a game-winning shot. Should have been an easy win for Team USA, and it wasn't. And I don't think that's because Team USA isn't talented. They have Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, LeBron, Joel Embiid. There's a lot of great players on this team. But for some reason, they seem to be struggling a lot more than they should. And I'll go a little more in-depth to that later. We're going to shift back to the NFL. So Rodgers spoke about his absence, simply saying that I don't have the full quote with me, but he said words can be deceiving. And now Rodgers, I think I defend him more than most do, to be honest with you. But listen, your coach called it an unexcused absence. So I think instead of beating around the bush, he could just own it and say he missed the practices, you know. And I defended Rodgers when he was missing the voluntary, minicamp stuff. Because he doesn't have to be there, usually. But what I did say was that in this situation, since Rodgers is adjusting to almost an entirely new system, he should be there. You know? So, if I were Rodgers, I would just... And I understand, I guess he kind of likes the media attention. But let's just tell it like it is. You know, you missed the mandatories. It's not a big deal. It's just... Well, I shouldn't say it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. But... You know, the thing with the Jets is I made my point a few times about how the noisier a team's offseason is, the worse they seem to perform. And I used that. I backed that up by saying the Packers, when Aaron Rodgers was in the news almost every week, the Packers were a lot worse. They went 9-8 or 8-9 and missed the playoffs. Whereas in their other years with Rodgers, they were easily making the postseason, pretty much a playoff lock every year. You know, and the Jets, I've said they're very talented. They got a number one receiver. They have a great running back. Their O-line is the best it's been in years. Could still use some work. Their defense is great. The only question is if Rodgers can stay healthy. I think if Rodgers stays healthy for the whole year, they're a 10-win team. Their two issues right now are Rodgers' health and the fact that they're in the AFC with 5 other great teams. You know, so it's not a lock that they'll make the playoffs. I think they're a top 7 team in the AFC, but because of the divisions and how they shake out, it's not exactly a lock that they make the playoffs. All right. So ESPN is reporting that the Niners aren't moving on from Brandon Ayuk. And I did say this initially when the report came out. I said I don't think they'll move off Brandon Ayuk, but I did shift my claim in the past couple of days that I think they will, because I don't think they need him. And if you heard my other podcasts, you would know that I think when you look at the 2019 roster that they took to the Super Bowl, now they have a better quarterback, a much better running back, similar O-line, same coach, much more talented receiving core, and a great defense still. So they don't need Brandon Ayuk per se. They didn't need him in 2019. They don't need him now. But it seems they're standing firm, keeping him on their team, which I'm just going to have to trust, because the Niners, they're a very well-run organization. It's hard to think they're going to make the wrong call. And that's kind of the same philosophy I'm having with the Packers right now. Whatever they do with Jordan Love is right, because the one time I doubted the Packers organization was when they drafted Jordan Love, and it seems they were right about that, so I'm just kind of trusting whatever their management decides to do. I really hope they don't pay him too much, because then that's just making the same mistake they made with Rodgers. You pay your quarterback too much, you don't have enough money to build weapons around them. So, alright, so I think with this whole Team USA thing, I think the line heading into the game was 40 points in USA's favor. They won by 1 point. So that's the big thing. They should have absolutely destroyed South Sudan. And as cliche as it sounded, I think they just weren't taking South Sudan seriously. And they didn't play defense for the first half, it seemed. It seemed the first half they were just score, mess around on defense, score. They didn't really seem to put any effort in defensive-wise. And they got pretty damn close to losing what should have been an easy win. So I think gotta be a little more careful. It's either they weren't taking them seriously, or they're just not as good as we all thought. And like I said, the comparisons to the Dream Team, it's a different era. They're a modernized Dream Team, but I think they are deeper than the Dream Team was. Both teams had their top players, but then the Dream Team, they also had a Christian Laettner. They had a few holes. This team doesn't really have any holes. Even Drew Holiday is one of the best defensive players in basketball. But, yeah, we'll see how they do the rest of the time. I have faith, but that was a bit scary. That game being that close. Alright, so, one thing I did take away from that game is it seems Anthony Davis might be... So, when it comes to AD versus Embiid, yes, Embiid is the better player. He's more talented. Has a lot more promise. He's more skilled. But I think AD works better with others. He's a better teammate, in my opinion. So... Embiid, he's the starter at center, which seems like a no-brainer, but, Anthony Davis, I think he's a little, at this moment, Embiid's kind of a guy that plays himself into shape. I think AD right now might be a little more reliable of an option. Alright. We're going to stick with basketball for a bit longer. Bronny James finished his summer league debut. He sat out the last game. I think a positive is he looked better each game. Bronny, he obviously started off really poorly, but I think each game he looked better and better. And like I said, this is the most any media has focused on a 55th overall pick. Right? Like, a second round pick has never gotten this much attention right out of the gate. I mean, there are some second round picks that have turned out to be pretty good, but like, none of them got that attention out of the gate. I can't think of the last 55th overall pick that people actually focused on in Summer League. You know, so Bronny has kind of been, you know, being LeBron's son's kind of a gift and a curse. Because now there's more, like, you're blessed with a lot, but, like, then again, you have all this pressure on you. Like, I can't think of another second round pick. Seriously, not another second round pick that people focus this much on. But yeah, I mean, no, he's not fantastic. He's not a great player. I don't think he's even a bench player at this point. He's going to be in the G League for this year, but he's showing a lot of improvement. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. Alright, that being said, let's shift to the NFL. The Bills' Deion Dawkins thinks that they are perfectly fine flying under the radar and that they will surprise us in the end. He said, quote, they'll hit everyone with uppercuts. And listen, the Bills, I think, are this year. I think they're going to take a bit of a slide this year. They're probably a 9 or 10 win team. Josh Allen's fantastic. I think he's a top 3 quarterback in the league. I would put him at number 2, behind Mahomes. I think they're also that's the tough thing. I think they're going to be fighting with the Jets for the 7th spot in the playoffs. Because you got your division winners. Texans, Chiefs, Bengals. And then I think the Dolphins have a slightly easier schedule than the Jets and Bills, so I think they'll be a division winner. Then the Ravens are going to make it too. You know, and if the Ravens win the division, the Bengals will make the wild card. Then there's 2 spots left. Probably the Bills and Jets, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers make an appearance either. You know, there's a lot of really good teams in the AFC. So it's tough to predict the playoff race over there. Alright, so Jalen Johnson, the cornerback on the Bears, said he is tired of hearing about the Bears' potential and says it's all about action. Now, the Bears, I think, are going to finish 4th again because of the sole fact that the Vikings, Lions, and Packers are currently better right now. Like, I mean, I said before, I think the Lions are the best team in that division. They're going to win it. I think the Packers finished 2nd, assuming Jordan Love, those 8 games weren't a fluke last year and that he's actually a good quarterback. You know, they should be a pretty formidable team and finishing 2nd in the division. Wild card appearance. And then I think the Vikings show a lot of promise. The only problem is their quarterback situation is uncertain. They're going to have I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. They have Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy, but still Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, T.J. Hawkinson, Jordan Addison's has been improving. So, and the Bears, honestly, I've said before that I can see them being, I can see this being their best year in like over a decade. No, that's not saying much, but if Caleb Williams is who most people think he is, like I like him. I think he's very talented, and we're going to see that this year. They got weapons. They got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. Matt Eberflus shows promise as a coach. The Bears can be surprising this year, but I don't see them beating out the Vikings, Packers, and Lions. But if they show improvement, that's going to change a lot of my opinion this year. All right. So Daniel Jones is ready to go after recovering from a torn ACL. Yes, he is ready to go. Ready to go to 4th place in that division. Maybe not. Maybe 3rd. But, it's the same thing with the NFC East. It's going to be Eagles and Cowboys 1-2. I'm hoping... I don't really root against teams, necessarily. My favorite team is the Packers. I've been pretty upfront about that, but there's not really a team that I dislike and want to lose, Like the Eagles, they made a Super Bowl with Shane Steichen as their offensive coordinator. And I know some people think I get too hung up on the coordinators of a team, but I think it's very important. Like, Shane Steichen is one of the best offensive minds in the league. And they made a Super Bowl with him as the OC. And once he left, they were a first-round exit. They showed significant decline in offensive production. So I think they can get back to where they were. Kellen Moore, I think, is a pretty good offensive coach, but it's hard to say. But either way, I think they're right up there with the Cowboys, even if they do take a bit of a fall. The Cowboys, like I said, my only problem with them is the postseason. They're always great in the regular season, right? Like, they always go 12-5 the last 3 years. I'm not discrediting that. What I'm discrediting is the fact they're 1-3 in the last 3 years in the playoffs. So, yeah, they'll be 1-2. And then you got Washington, who has Jaden Daniels, who I think will be very good. But not many others, right? They have Eckler. He's kind of old now. But, yeah, after the Cowboys and Eagles, it's kind of Giants. Washington are kind of fighting for 3rd and 4th. I think the Washington shows more promise. They're going to show more promise than the Giants until Daniel Jones gets off that team, to be honest with you. Daniel Jones, I've said before, he has given you... I don't understand how the Giants don't see it. He's given you 5 years of proof that he's not a good quarterback. 5 straight years. And as I've said multiple times, his best year is when he was the least involved in the offense. When they made the playoffs, won a playoff game against the Vikings, Daniel Jones only threw 15 touchdowns. He wasn't a big piece of that offense. So, Daniel Jones, he's showing you what he is, which is talented, but ultimately not the guy for you. All right. Sticking to the quarterback theme, the Vikings are hoping Sam Darnold has a similar turnaround that Geno Smith had in Seattle. And, why not? Sam Darnold, it was never a talent issue with him. And that goes for a lot of quarterbacks in the league, honestly. A lot of quarterbacks that get shut out early, it's more the team that they're on, because these top picks, obviously they wind up on really crappy teams. Like Justin Fields, he's got talent, but he went to the Bears. He didn't have, the Bears have never had a good quarterback. Zach Wilson, I think Zach Wilson is talented, but he went to the Jets. So these guys don't really get a fair shake at it. So Sam Darnold, I think, my guess is he'll start the first few games. At least until J.J. McCarthy seems ready. And yeah, Sam Darnold, he might have a solid turnaround. He's in a much better spot now with the Vikings. The Jets didn't have Justin Jefferson or Aaron Jones or TJ Hawkinson. So I can see him showing major improvement from last time he played a full season. And J.J. McCarthy, he shows some promise, and I think Justin Jefferson can make any quarterback look good. I like Kirk Cousins a lot. But he's not top 15. Actually, probably 15th best in the league. He's a mediocre quarterback, and Justin Jefferson made him look really good. So, I have hope. We're going to end this show with a baseball segment. Shohei Ohtani hit his 30th homer yesterday. He was 473 feet in Dodger Stadium. He is a spectacular player. Undoubtedly the best in the league. He's top 5 in stolen bases. And then, for the following stats, he's either first, second, or third. Hits, runs, RBIs, home runs, and batting average. He's top 3 in all of those stats. He is going to win MVP as a DH without pitching now. Further cementing himself as the best player this league has had in quite a while. So the Dodgers, their main problem has been injuries this year. I think they're the best team in baseball, unfortunately. I'm always going to root for the Yankees to win the World Series, but the Dodgers, their roster is fantastic, and it's funny because as I'm speaking, Juan Soto just hit a homer for the Yankees. They're currently up 9-1 of the Rays, and the Yankees, Dodgers, they're both great teams. I think the Dodgers are slightly better, and they got Ohtani. Having Ohtani is almost an unfair advantage when you have other people around him. Like when he was with the Angels, it didn't matter how talented he was. They were never going to be a good team with no one else. But the Dodgers, they have the rest of that roster to help him out. So that's good. Good stuff today. I will be making a podcast every day except Thursday this week. And, this is Dylan Miller and Delitos Dylan. Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller and Delitos Dylan. Have a good day. See you tomorrow.